This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
Welcome everyone. Baruch Shechianu v'kiyamanu v'giyanu lazman hazeh, to the start of our next project, with the help of Hashem, the holy learning of Orchos Chaim Lharosh. The great Rishon, Lharosh, compiled a Sefer called Orchos Chaim, the ways of life. This project has been made possible by a grant by my good friend Yoel Klugman and family, in loving memory of Meshulam ben Moshe, Chava bas Yehuda Kohen Klugman, and for the successful shidduchim of their children. The learning of this will be found on Kol Lashon, and I'm also going to attempt to video it for TorahAnytime.com as well. The name Orchos Chaim is not the universal name of this Sefer. The Chidah in the Shema Gedolim calls it Hanhagos Harosh, which are the practices, the way the Rosh led his life. The Sefer is broken up into the 7 days of the week. This is not the early way it was found. The earliest that this was found was at the time of the Tosfos Yom Tov, so it's perhaps not have the way the Rosh compiled it, but as we do with other Svarim, like for example Shmiras Haloshim, we break it down and do it according to a calendar, so the Tosfos Yom Tov did with the Orchos Chaim. I stumbled upon a marvelous find. As we will see, the Sefer is broken into segments, which the Rosh numbered, Aleph, Beis, Gimel, Dalet, etc. There is a total, counting the Shabbos day, of 154 statements that the Rosh made, some shorter, some longer. I happened to stumble on the fact that 154 is exactly B'Gematria Olam Haba. And, of course, since we know that the true Chaim is the afterlife, this world is fleeting, and but the true life is the life of eternity in the afterlife. Well, Olam Haba is also 154, which is perfect. The 154 pieces of advice that the Rosh gives us will allow us to enjoy Olam Haba, the afterlife. I'll tell you an interesting thing. The way I realized this is because the great Rav Manis Mendel, the former dean of Yeshiva of Brooklyn, who is actually being honored posthumously by Yeshiva of Brooklyn this year, very worthy honor, he used to say that dank, thank you, is B'Gematria Olam Haba. The importance to tell people adank. Dank, Daled Nun Kuf, is 154. So that's what made me realize it. The study of this will hopefully grant us insights into life, how to lead our lives better, and also for parents, grandparents, great-grandparents, it will give us tips on how to guide our descendants, coming from one of the greatest of the ancient Rishonim. And he starts off by way of Hakdama, by way of preface, Ve'ela hadavarim she yizor bahem. The following are the things that a person should be careful with. Exercise caution. Lasur mimogshe maves, to remove oneself from the traps of death, from the snares of death. He's going to warn us about a lot of traps. For example, jealousy is a trap. If a person falls into the pit of jealousy, it says, Rikavat samay skina. The rot of the bones is jealousy. We learn in Pirkei Avos that three things three things eject a person from the world. Hakina, taiva, v'akavod. Jealousy, unbridled pleasure-seeking, and honor. Right? That's a mokshe mavis. If it drives a person to an early grave, that's a snare of death. V'lei'or ba'orachayim. Rather, to allow us to be illuminated with the light of life. Now that sounds pretty poetic. Of course, this refers to the Ora Torah. That's the light of life. Kiner mitzvah v'Torah ar. The lamp are the mitzvahs, but Torah is the light. This world, with all of its glitter, with all of its glow, is a world of darkness. There's a medrash in the beginning of the Torah. It says, the world was sayu v'avayu, unformed and void. Tohu, that's Galus Bavel, the exile of Bavel. Vavayu was the exile of Madai, of Medes. The Chayshech, that's Galus Yavan, the Syrian Greeks at the time of Hanukkah. Al Pnei Saim ze Galus Edom. So isn't it interesting that what is darkness? The Chayshech, that's Yavan. Now Yavan, Greece, that's the Olympics. That's beauty. That's all the glitter and glow of ancient Greece. But that's darkness. Torah is the real light. Now, what the Rosh is telling us is if we remove the pitfalls, we will automatically see the light. Because Halikim bara es Adam Yasher. Hashem created a person upright. Just things get in the way. We're clouded by the darkness of this world. Shlomo Melech told us, Hevel Havolim. This world is full of Hevel, full of nothingness. Now, I'm not going to, I had thought maybe I'd do a certain amount every day, but I will not do that. We will go and we will see how long each one takes. Now, it's so instructive in the 154 pieces of advice that the Rosh gave what he starts with. Remember, this is the way of life. So, if I was writing about the ways of life, I would start with Torah. After all, it says, Ki heim chayenu v'arich yameinu. It is our life. Ki chayim heim l'motze eyem. Indeed, the Rosh will talk a lot about Torah. But he doesn't start with that. You see, the Rosh, I believe, is using the formula of sur me'ra v'asei tov. First, you have to turn away from evil, and only then can you do good. We don't want to put Torah in a dirty vessel. Right? That's what we say. Derech eretz kodma la Torah. But even then, the midah, the character trait that the Rosh picks first, is very novel. He starts off, L'yisrachek min hagava. A person should distance himself from gaiva, from arrogance. B'tachlis harichuk. With the utmost distance. He should totally distance himself. Tachlis harichuk means as far as possible. In this, I believe the Rosh is somewhat echoing the words in Pirkei Avos, Ma'od ma'od have a shval ruach. Now, it could have said in the Mishnah, have a shval ruach, be lowly of spirit. But it says ma'od. Now, it could have just said ma'od, but it says ma'od ma'od. Now, that's real emphasis. And therefore the Rosh echoes this by saying, L'srachek min ha'gaiva, distance yourself from gaiva, from haughtiness, b'tachlis orichuk, as far as possible. It's like saying, you know that person, he's a bad influence. Stay as far as possible away from him as you can. We tell our children, smoking, drugs, stay far, far away. So of all the midos, all the character traits, he didn't start with anger. He didn't start with greed, laziness, but gaiva. Gaiva is almost a cliche. Arrogance is almost a cliche. First of all, what's so bad? So you get a clue in Slabotka, where they had a Beis HaMusar, and in order to get something into their very bones, they would say it over and over and over again for 100 times, a saying, in its sing-song Musar Dikanigan. And one of the things that they would say 100 times is, Toyavas Hashem kol gevalev. It's an abomination of Hashem, all those who have a haughty heart. Toyavas Hashem. Now, an abomination, an idol is an abomination. And it calls arrogance an abomination. You have another clue from a pasuk that tells us, Ekev anova yiras Hashem. Besides humility, there is fear of God. And Taisa says in the 12th parak of Yavamis, Mitzvahs Chalitza, L'lamed sheshkulinheim. Humility and fear of God are equal accomplishments. Now that's amazing, because Yiras Hashem, that's everything. Reishis Chachma, Yiras Hashem. Right? Yiras Hashem hi Chachma. Hakol b'dei Shemayim chutz mi'yiras Shemayim. And yet it says, Ekev anova, besides humility, there's fear of God. So let's understand what this means, to distance yourself from haughtiness. What does that mean? First of all, it means that you shouldn't feel above people. He's not of my class. She's not my level. Achenu kol beis Yisrael, we're all brothers. No one is below us. Also, when a person is haughty, then they can't learn from someone else, because you feel you always know better. And that's a big problem. Because who's a chacham? Haloi made mikol adam, was able to learn from every person. If you could only learn, I could learn from Rav Chaim Kanievsky. Yeah, I could learn something from him. I could learn from Rav Steinman. I might be able to learn from Rav David Feinstein. But that's no good. You have to know that we have to be able to learn from every person. Now, there's another reason why I believe the Rush starts off with this, and that is, before doing anything, you have to know what's driving you, what's motivating you. Says the Rush, don't allow pride to motivate you. If people are motivated because of pride, because of what people say about them, so then if nobody knows about it, they might not be motivated to do something good. Or if people think badly of them, so then they might say, so then what the heck? Not getting credit anyway. So the Rosh says, don't allow the driving force in your life to be gaiva, to be what people say. Then he goes on, and he chooses as his next statement, maybe even a bigger surprise. I mean, here we're talking about the full gamut of midos. And he says, V'chein min ha'chanifus. Stay away from flattery. Now, chanifus is an ugly thing. This is when a person fawns and flatters the rich and powerful, whose behavior is not deserving, but in order to win favors, in order to curry their friendship, in order to get perhaps a quid pro quo, they flatter those that are undeserving of it. Now, you'll say, okay, it doesn't sound like it should be really on the top over here in neon lights. But there are a lot of tragedies that happen because of Hanifas. Because people fawn and curry favor of the rich and powerful, there's a lot of injustice in this world. There are cities where people are treated poorly, whether in schools, whether in shuls, and nobody raises a voice to stop it because they are flattering those that are rich and powerful. And we see that the Rosh says over here, just like you have to stay away from gaiva, you have to stay away from such false behavior as Hanifas as well. Okay, this is the beginning. So, of the 154, we've already done 2. We thank again Yoel Kugman and family for sponsoring. And if you would like to sponsor a day, call me at 718-916-3100. Remember, I hope you'll start Mishnah Yomis again. It's all there by dialing 718-906-6471. Thank you for joining us, and have a wonderful day.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.